Hello, friends. Welcome to tonight's live chat. I see most of you signing in. Hopefully, there's no issue with my microphone tonight. Let me know if there is. For right now, it's looking like it's responding to my voice. So that's probably a good thing. Good to see you. Nancy R., welcome to tonight's live chat. I see you saying, hello, everyone. Glad to be here as well. And thank God it's Friday. Let me tell you, I'm so happy it is as well. And it's not because I party. It's not because I drink. Not because I do things that I shouldn't be doing, but because this has been a really long day and a really long week. So I'm always glad to see you guys. My mom is doing well, but she's going up and down, up and down, up and down. You know what I mean? Progress, then it looks like we're regressing in progress, So that's tiring, not to mention, guys, and I know you can relate to this, dealing with society and people in the world. It is so, so draining. So by the time you get to Friday, it's like, thank you, Lord, we get a break, So bear with me here. First, Instagram was working. Now it's not working. So let me hook them up. And then we're going to go ahead and jump in. Because I think this is going to be a conversation that you're going to be able to say, wait a minute, this relates not only to my personal life, my family, my relationships, my friends, even my neighbors, but it also relates to the strangers and the people that I come across in daily life. And I need to know why they're acting the way that they're acting, right? And why they behave like they behave. So I think this is going to be a very useful topic for you. I'm hooking up Instagram now so that they can also join us during this conversation tonight. Let me just say, as Instagram is kind of booting up here, that dishonest and ruleless people are all around us in society. I'm sure if you thought about it for a second, you could go back in your mind to some day during this week, Monday through Thursday, maybe today even, and you could find one person that did the wrong thing to you, one person that cut you off in traffic, one person that talked down to you, one person who didn't hold the door open for you, who just seemed to be happy with making you feel less than. Okay, let me type a message to Instagram. I'm going to say, hello, friends. Welcome. Come to my channel for a community experience. Okay. All right. Instagram is good to go. So I'm sure you can go back. Yes, you're welcome, Nancy. I just saw you, so thank you for your time. Yes, you're welcome. Love being here with you guys every Friday and Saturday. But I'm sure you can go back in your week this week and you can pinpoint somebody who's done something to you. Maybe that person who has done something to you is a family member. And maybe they kind of confuse you sometimes. They say the wrong things. 1 minute they're on, next minute they're off. You don't know what to expect from them. Maybe you have some built-in resentment because you've learned over time that there's lies that they have held, there's secrecy that they have been a part of, there's backstabbing and backbiting and manipulation and triangulation and all of that going on. Depending on who it is in your world, I'm sure you can find somebody that's done something like that to you. So in tonight's live chat, I want to introduce the concept of individuals, the psychology of people who are considered ruleless and dishonest. And there's literally a body of research on why sometimes people absolutely disregard the rules of relationships, the rules of professionalism, the rules of the world. There's also a body of research that is becoming more robust over time on dishonesty. Why do we have dishonesty in our families? Why do we have dishonesty in our relationships? Why are there in existence pathological liars? I talked about that, I think, this week, right, guys? I think on Monday it was pathological liars. I believe so. I can't even remember. And then yesterday I posted a brief video on parents and how unstable they can be as well in your world. So really it's pulling those two topics together in tonight's live chat. Let's start by looking at some terms, okay, guys? The person in your world or the people in your world may even be your family who seems to be, give me 1 second, guys. I want to make sure I hit the right buttons. Yes, I did. Okay. Who seems to be not very trustworthy. They're not very dependable. They tend to be flaky, or they go up and down, right? They tend to be an emotional roller coaster. They manipulate everybody in their world and in your world. They triangulate, right? They take on this mentality of, I am the victim, you are the perpetrator. I feel this way because of you, and you have to take that responsibility. So these are individuals who are very not only dishonest with you, but they're very dishonest with themselves. And that creates a deep-seated problem that's really not easy to get rid of, because once a person starts to be dishonest with themselves, it's gone downhill from there, because they've not only been dishonest with themselves, but they have developed defense mechanisms to ensure that their quote unquote truth remains, right? So let's say, for example, your father, who's very narcissistic, he seems to be manipulative and callous and cold. Let's say, for example, you go to your dad and you say, hey, Dad, I just lost my job. They laid me off. I need a loan. I don't know what to do. I have mortgage, I have a car note, I have a family. Can you loan me at least $4,000, and I'll get it back to you as soon as possible. Okay. Let's say you've gone to your dad with that specific issue. Your dad comes back to you and says, didn't you save from your job? And you may say, I did, but that was kind of like money that I was using to spend on credit card offers and, paying off some debt and things like that. But I need at least $4,000 to get by, because I have some bills that are upcoming. Okay. So let's say your dad, being somebody who's cold and callous, doesn't like to loan money. And he doesn't like to loan money because that makes him feel weak. That makes him feel less than. That makes him feel like he has to give all of what he has earned, right? His ego is kind of wrapped around his money, right? And here you are asking for $4,000. Dad says to you, you know what? I don't have it. I'm sorry. I used to, but I've gone through bankruptcy, and, I've had to pay down some credit cards. I've had to help your sister. I'm sorry. I don't have $4,000. And you may come back to your dad and say, do you have anything that you can help me, Dad? And your dad says, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's nothing that I can do to help you. And he cuts the conversation and he moves on to something else, right? So that's your dad. He's cold, callous, straight to the point. He cuts off the conversation. He's done with you, right? 2 or 3 days later, okay, your sister asks for a loan. What does Dad say to her? Sure. Yeah, I can give you about $2,500. Yeah, not a problem at all. Let me just go to the bank, get the money, give you the money, and we'll go from there. Okay. Somewhere down the line, you find out that Dad has loaned your sister the money, not the exact amount, but he's loaned her quite a bit, right? And he didn't bother to help you do anything. You go to your dad, he plays with your mind, he manipulates your mind and your heart. He talks about the things that you've done to him in the past and how he can't trust you, right? He talks about how his daughter seems to be a little bit more, what's the word that I'm looking for, guys? Tends to be a little bit more responsible. I'll put it that way. She seems to be a little bit more organized, right? So Dad has already put you in a negative light, and your sister is shining over here like she's the biggest, brightest angel, right? What's wrong with this is a very common problem with ruleless people. And I'm going to define what that means. Ruleless people and dishonest people. And that is a lack of moral self-interest. A lack of moral self-interest. And it says a lot of research studies that's done on dishonest family members, dishonest people, highlights that when you don't have a moral self-image, you can very easily manipulate, lie, cheat, steal, deceive, hurt, and walk away like nothing ever happened. There's no physiological response of anxiety. There's no fear that you're going to get caught. There's no regret or guilt. There's nothing. It's basically a person who is emotionless when it comes to the rules and honesty that we should have as people in relationships and in family, right? So your dad, in this example, your dad would fit the description, the psychological description of having a lack of moral self-image. And this doesn't just happen over time. It starts at the beginning of time. So it starts genetically, and then it also starts in the relationship with the parent and the child. And then it continues throughout the lifespan if the environment is not a healthy environment. So dad, for example, has been an immoral individual from the start, and you can't trust him because he's not going to give you what you need. He's not going to give you what you're asking for, and he's not going to walk away with a sense of guilt. It's almost as if, and this is some research studies as well on these kind of individuals, it's almost as if their central nervous system is very different from ours. You know, the central nervous system consists of two components, the brain and the spinal cord. If you think about the brain, right, and the spinal cord, this is kind of what you get, the brain and the spinal cord, okay? Housed within the brain and the spinal cord is the central nervous system. And in that central nervous system, there's two systems. And that is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system. The sympathetic system is really our fight or flight, okay, in a nutshell. The parasympathetic is what kicks in when a threat has gone, right, or it's disappeared, or it hasn't impacted us. So we can kind of feel calmer and more control when we are in the parasympathetic system, okay, guys? But research suggests in psychology that if you have an individual who's ruleless, dishonest, has a lack of moral self-image, they don't hold themselves responsible for the things that they should, it is possible that there is less arousal in the central nervous system. So it makes it a lot easier to lie. It makes it a lot easier to cheat, to steal, to deceive, to harm. It makes pathological lying much easier, right, guys? Because you don't have that biological system within each of us as human beings that's responding. So sometimes the dishonest, ruleless individual, while we're sitting there maybe feeling uptight or anxious or kind of worried about how things are going to go, they're cool and calm as a cucumber. And that's because there's some research that suggests ruleless, dishonest, careless, sociopath, narcissistic individuals may not respond to the environment neurologically as most of us would. Okay. Let me also throw in here too, there's a word known as psychological reactance. Have you guys heard of this? Psychological reactance. It's really the internal desire or the internal desire to gain a motivation, to gain freedom after feeling like it has been snatched or threatened. Okay. So let's say, for example, your mom doesn't seem to necessarily feel guilty about her narcissistic ways. She seems to be very, what's the word that I'm looking for? She tends to be very uppity, arrogant. She stands firm on her beliefs, right? She doesn't necessarily forgive. She's a grudge holder, okay? This is your mom. Let's say you go to your mom and you say, you know what, Mom, I think we need to forgive Dad. We also need to go to therapy and talk with Dad. Dad had a very traumatic childhood. You know, he's needing us to forgive him. I think you should drop the charges in court. And I think we need to take Dad to therapy. Let's just go as a family, okay? Let's say your narcissistic mom is starting to feel like you are snatching her ability to make decisions away from her. You're taking her freedom away from her. So what's likely to happen? Well, she's going to slip into psychological reactance, meaning that she feels that you are getting in the way of her ability to choose. You are getting in the way of her ability to make her own decisions and to conclude what she needs to conclude. And so psychological reactance is really a reaction to feeling like the person's freedom is being taken from them. Most dishonest, most ruleless individuals with no boundaries who lie, cheat, and steal, they often feel like their freedom is being infringed upon. And that is because they cannot conform. I'll put it that way. I was going to say confirm, but I meant conform. They can't conform to the rules of society, to the rules of the relationship. Most of us in society have what we call a fear of or aversion to coercive power. Most of us have a fear of coercive power. What that means is a lot of us have a fear of police, right? Because they have the power to do what they want. We often have fear of stepping out of line at an airport, at a grocery store, right? At a family gathering, at a church service. Most of us are held in place by this internalized sense of, I need to be careful with what I say and do, right? People who are ruleless and dishonest and engage in lying and deception and dishonesty, if I hadn't already said that, they don't have this fear of coercive control. It doesn't exist. Their mind, their heart, and their soul is devoid. There is no fear of hurting anyone, stepping on anyone's shoes, pushing somebody's buttons, getting somebody upset, going against the law, being a problem in society. This doesn't exist in a person who is ruleless and dishonest. Okay, so there's no fear of coercive control. Judges, police, people who enforce rights, ethics, laws, there's no fear. And can you imagine a mind like this, right? If this is a family member, you can look for the family member to be a liar, a cheater, a deceiver, right? Maybe they've taken things from you. Maybe they have lied about you throughout the family. Maybe there's constant rumors. Maybe there's constant judgments that are completely off the wall, right? It just doesn't make any sense, Maybe to a certain extent, your family has mixed in 50% truth and 50% lies, and it goes together so much and blends that you don't know how to undo the damage, right? And this is what ruleless and dishonest people usually do. These are individuals who biologically, neurologically, and psychologically do not feel that they have to abide by any rules of a relationship, any rules of society, any rules of the family dynamic. There's no rules that exist to them. They do exactly what they want to do. Now, most of us have what's called loss aversion. And loss aversion says, I'm afraid to lose things. I'm afraid to do anything that could cause me to lose that could cause me to miss out on that, right? These individuals do not. They do not have an internalized loss aversion. It's not there. They also have what we call low reward power. Low reward power, meaning they're not going to respond to the possibility of being rewarded. Let's say, for example, how do I want to put this? I want to give you guys one very simple example of this. Let's say, for example, this dad, as an example, who I talked about earlier, who is a cold, callous, unempathic sociopath. And let's say he gets behind the wheel of his BMW. He just bought it. He's so excited to have it. He can't wait to get it out on the road. He really wants to get going in this BMW. He's always wanted one. This is his dream car, right? He gets behind the wheel of his BMW, starts it up. He gets this internalized charge of, yeah, we're getting ready to get on the road and go. He turns his music up. You say, you know what, Dad, can I go with you? Yeah. He opens the door. You get inside. You guys get on the highway. Most people would not only turn out of their driveway or their garage in a responsible manner, but they're also not going to get on the highway and have wreck into everyone, right? Cause a collision. They're not going to go in and out of lanes in front of people and behind people, right? Because that's an accident just waiting to happen. They're not going to drive people's bumpers and blow on them and flicker lights because they want to go faster than the speed limit. They're not going to be road raging bullies, right? That's most people. Dishonest, ruleless dad here with his always desired BMW doesn't have a problem not being rewarded. Or maybe I should put it this way. He doesn't seem to have a problem with losing the reward that he wants, which would be to continue to drive his BMW. So most of us would say, you know what, I better slow down on this highway because police may be sitting and watching, and I really don't need a ticket right now. This kind of a father, right, who's ruleless and dishonest doesn't have that automatic clicking part of his brain. It's not there at all. It's really tunnel vision. Tunnel vision is, I have my BMW. I've always wanted my BMW. I'm behind the wheel of it. The music sounds good. The energy of this car feels good. And I'm going to drive with whichever way I want to drive on the road. Okay. There is no sense of, what if I lose my license? What if I lose, control of my car and kill somebody, including myself and my family? None of that exists. Okay. So we call this reward power. We're constantly obeying the rules of society, of relationships, of engagements with other people, because we want a reward. And that reward is, we want to be seen as respectable citizens, right? We want to be respected. We don't want to lose our license. We don't want the police called on us. We don't want to have our privileges suspended, right? So we are going to do whatever it takes to protect that. But a ruleless, dishonest person who really is built on the inside to totally ignore what's moral, what's valuable, what's ethical, they don't care. It is not there. So, they have low reward power. They do not care. And if they get pulled over, if you're dealing with a narcissist on top of this, if they get pulled over by the police, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to try to be charismatic with the officer. They're going to ask for forgiveness. Everything is going to be, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, right? Everything is going to look and feel right. But the core of the issue here, and this is for those of you who may have family members like this, the core of the issue is, this is not who this person really is. At the core of who they are ruleless, they are dishonest, they are liars, they are pathologically destroyed, if you will. There's something going on at the core of who they are. So there we go. Let me also mention too, before I go to the chat box, let me mention that there's also something known as intelligent disobedience. Intelligent disobedience. They don't have this. Dishonest, ruleless people do not have intelligent disobedience. Intelligent disobedience is this, that I have a reason for telling my mother I'm going no contact with her. And here's all the reasons why I'm doing so. My family believes that we should stick together, that family is everything, that I should never disregard the rights of my parent, that I should just go along and be quiet. I'm not going to do that. So that's disobedience. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell my mom why we are going no contact. And here's my many reasons for why we are going no contact. That's called intelligent disobedience. And a lot of these individuals with ruleless and dishonest behaviors, they don't have that. They don't know how to be intelligent in what they decide to go against, if that makes sense. They just kind of do whatever they want. And if you happen to be in the way, you're going to get hurt, Let me also say here briefly, I just thought of something else I should have mentioned a little while ago. There's something known as status quo bias. And there's a lot of people, especially in toxic family dynamics, who would like to keep things status quo. They don't want things to change. They want to keep things the same. Individuals who are internally disobedient, oppositional, defiant, disregarding, dishonest, Ruleless, those individuals, they don't have a sense of let's keep the peace, let's keep things the same. It tends to be, I don't care what I do. And if this impacts you negatively, oh well. If my words hurt you, oh well, whatever, get over it. That's kind of their disposition. So they don't have this desire for sameness. They don't care about change, right? Because things happen on their watch, on their time, on their clock, when they want it, how they want it, right? And so there is no pumping the brakes. There is no, let me think about this a little closer. Let me be wise about this. That doesn't exist, right? So if you have a mom like this, a father like this, a sibling like this, you most likely can relate. And I'm sure you're exhausted because these individuals will run all over you, and they'll do it without any kind of regret. There is no inborn consciousness. I'll put it that way. There's no inborn consciousness. They are devoid of any kind of conscience, if that makes sense. So in tonight's live chat, guys, I'm going to give you some common issues that's going on here. I'm going to give you just a little bit of research, and I'm going to tell you how this impacts you negatively. Let's go to the chat box, guys. Let me see what you guys are saying. Let me welcome you. Pink Meadows and Gary Bennett, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. It's so good to see you guys tonight. Lore Fit and Give It a Think, hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat as well. Did I say hello to you, Nancy? I think I did, because I did respond to your TGIF. Fairy Girl, hello, welcome back. Good to see you. Sure did. Good to see you. Lupita, Felix, and Sun and Sunflowers. Good to see you guys tonight. Are you guys as tired as I feel? I feel exhausted today. Lore Fit, thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. Every day is a new challenge, One day, Lore Fit, she's like, let's go. Like yesterday, she was like, let's go, kids, talking to me and my siblings. And she's like, I want to get up and walk over to the patio. And she walks over to the patio, and then she's like, I want to walk back. And we walk back and and then she's like, I want to get my hair done again. And let's watch some Judge Judy. And I was cooking or something. And she's like, what are you cooking tonight? And I'm like, Mom, I'm cooking some kind of chicken casserole with, some croutons and cheese and tomatoes over the top. And she's like, bring it on, And then today she's just like, I want to go to bed. She's very lethargic. So Laura Fit, thank you for that. It's been a rough journey. Let me just tell you, it's been a rough journey, but she is doing better every day. It's just the ups and downs, Ellie Wynn, hello and welcome. Good to see you. NGO, Orlando, and Elizabeth, hello. Glad to see you as well. Welcome back. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Elizabeth says, I completely feel that dealing with people is exhausting. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But if you're like me, if you're a therapist, sometimes a nurse, a doctor, a surgeon, a lawyer, sometimes, your love for the people who need you can kind of help you. That's what sustains my energy. When I am completely exhausted, especially lately, and I have to go see my clients, especially my 5-year-olds, my 12-year-olds, my 17-year-olds, sometimes even my 21-year-olds who kind of come across as younger than 21. And sometimes even my older adults, some of the parents, it pushes me to get up and go, Elizabeth, because I realized that, wait a minute, Jackie's waiting on me over there. Bobby's waiting on me. Tiffany is coming today for her session. Sarah's coming in tonight, So that kind of helps, but I totally get you. People can be exhausting and dealing with them can be exhausting as well. Clandestine Girl 16X, hello and welcome back. I haven't seen you in so long. Welcome back, my friend. And you're welcome. Thank you for watching and participating. Nicole B, hello and welcome back. Good to see you. Trauma survivor, good to see you. I'm sure you can relate to this topic, right? Yeah. Ellie Wynn says, most drained I have ever been the last 2 days. Okay. Hopefully it's nothing going around. I think to a certain extent, humanity is exhausted. We're going through a lot, right? Neva, am I saying that right? I hope I am. 2023. Hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Thank you so much. And you're welcome. So glad you're on the channel. And I'm glad you joined us live. Oh, okay. Good to see that. Okay, Lupita. Good, good, good. Serafina, hello and welcome back. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. T Bunny, hello. Good to see you. T Bunny says it brings cognitive dissonance. Right. I very much agree. We know the truth about these people, but we want to hold on to a fantasy. We want to either hold on to a fantasy, or it's not very easy to observe one's close associates as being dishonest and ruleless, you know? And I think that's what makes that difficult, right? Because on one side of our brain, we are logical. Okay. If you guys map out the brain, you know, in the middle of the brain, I'm going to draw this out for you because we're going to do 2 diagrams today, guys. This is how tired I am. I'm going to do a diagram because I'm too tired to talk. Okay. So let's say, for example, this is the brain. Okay, guys. Okay. In the middle of the brain, I'm going to do CC. Can you see that? In the middle of the brain, we would call that the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum. And what the corpus callosum does is this. It pulls together the left and the right hemisphere. Okay? The corpus callosum, which is this middle piece, CC, it pulls together the left and the right hemisphere. The right hemisphere is artistic, right? Poetry, music, dance, culture, right? I'm trying to think of anything else that can go on the right side. Imagination, passion, all of that, love, all of that, right hemisphere, right? Both hemispheres kind of share skills, but the right hemisphere is more dominant in that way. The left hemisphere tends to be logical, reasoning, rationalizing, making decisions, choosing things, right? Separating truth from fiction. That's the left hemisphere. And so what happens for most of us who are having a hard time with reality, the brain literally goes through a cognitive dissonance. Why? Because each side of the brain is exchanging information back and forth while we're trying to determine how to understand 2 opposing things and make it make sense, right? My mother is loving and caring. She's given us everything. This is an example. My mother is loving and caring and has given us everything. But on the flip side, she has those moments where she berates us. She calls us every name in the book. She treats us like we are losers. She disrespects us and disregards us. How do we marry those 2 opposing people? It makes no sense. Another example, domestic violence. You know, how do I be okay with marrying this wonderful man, right? Having beautiful children, having a wonderful life. But every Friday, he beats me. How do I deal with that? How do I marry those 2? And as a matter of fact, this was a client that I had a couple years ago. Lovely family, beautiful biracial family. You know, dad, mom, and their 6 kids. Just, you look at all of them and you're like, you guys look like you should be, you know, somewhere with Kodak, you know, the camera company, because they were a beautiful family. But the scary part was dad wasn't okay. And so the cognitive dissonance really triggered my client, which was the mom. And she couldn't understand, how are we such a wonderful family Monday through Thursday, and Friday hits, and Saturday, they would also have some bad Saturdays. And he would just change. There was no trigger, nothing, no warning. He would just change. So T Bunny Shy, I guess what I'm saying in this comment back to you, or this reply, is that cognitive dissonance is not only a neurological process, but it's also an emotional process as well, because sometimes it's really hard for us to marry the 2 opposing views. And so you're right, to a certain degree, we would rather the fantasy. It's easier, right? And the brain literally processes the positive things much better than the traumatic things. And so that makes a difference as well. Felix, yes, thank you so much for that. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate you for validation. Yes. Rochella, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Rochella says, yes, you can't fight or win with a person who is dishonest with themselves. Right, you can't. And I didn't decipher this earlier, but maybe I'll briefly do it here. A person who is dishonest with themselves has basically has become an expert in creating categories in their own mind. I once had a client. She was a very interesting 23-year-old. And here's what she said to me, because I was very much, me and her psychiatrist and I were very much on the same page of diagnosing dissociative identity disorder, which formally is multiple personality disorder. Okay. So, we were like literally inches away from diagnosing it. He and I, psychiatrist and I, because she had every single piece of the criteria. The only thing is we couldn't figure out, is it dissociative identity disorder? Okay. Or is she meeting diagnostic criteria for psychosis? Are we in a state of psychosis that is upcoming, that's coming, We never really, clearly figured it out. We just started treating what appeared to be a psychosis, but that's neither here nor there. But here's what this client said to me one time. She came into session. She was really struggling. She sits down and we start doing some introspection, some what we call intrapersonal work. We're really looking at her relationships. We're really looking at how she processes things in her world and in her relationships. And she says to me, she says, Tamara, it's interesting how my mind works. She says, because I feel like I live in a dream. I feel like I live in a fantasy. I feel like I live in a dissociative state all the time. Like I'm just watching the world go by and I'm just standing here trying to understand what's going on. And she says, it's like I have, and then she paused for a while. She's like, it feels like I have 17 different doors in my mind. 17 different doors in my mind. And all of the doors are closed. And I'm in the middle of the floor trying to figure out which door to open, and what am I going to get once I open the doors and get through to the other side. Okay. And what it ended up being as we continued on in therapy is all 17 of those quote unquote doors were really places within her mind that she has learned to hide. So in other words, all of those different things in her mind that she considered doors were really and honestly different lies about herself, about society, about her relationships, about her family, about her own heart and mind and soul. They were all lies and fantasies, right? And doors that she could open and live in. You know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and live as the spunky woman who has no problems today. Okay. Slam that door. I'm going to go to the next door tomorrow. So I'm going to go to door 16. I think what I'm going to do there is I'm going to be a boy and I'm going to be this tough boy. And she would, put her hair in a bun, whatever, put a ball cap on, she would really dress with male clothes. She would just switch, constantly. But I found that interesting, and this is to you, Rochella, because your comment is confirming what I said earlier, that if you're going to lie to yourself, then there's nothing anybody else can do to connect with you, right? And so she was lying to herself. She was, using all these different identities and energies and personalities to hide. And so she never really came to terms with her true self, because every door in her mind was a fantasy. I hope that made sense. That was the worst case of my whole life. It was awful. And I literally talked to several colleagues over the course of her treatment. Let me just tell you, she's a fully grown adult today, very healthy, has children of her own. She's doing a really good job. But let me just say, therapy with her was quite interesting. She taught me a lot about lying to yourself, Spiky Potato, hello and welcome. Glad you could catch a live stream as well. Good to see you. Thank you so much, Nancy. I truly appreciate that. That's the only thing that's been getting us through. Thank you. Don Juan, hello. Welcome back. Glad to see you. Betsy Sigler, hello. Thank you so much. That's so humbling. Oh, I truly hope that that's what this time is well spent doing. You know what I mean? So thank you so much for that. And welcome to the channel. Welcome to the live stream. Good to see you. Gary Bennett says, you just keep putting out to the person who are dishonest and you won't feel me. Standing up for yourself, being honest to yourself is far better than being defensive. I very much agree. But they can't do it, Gary Bennett. Think of this young lady I just told you about. 17 different ways in her mind that she's learned to lie to herself. That's the problem. Thank you so much for that, Nancy. Thank you. Because sometimes in my mind, I literally hear blah, 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 blah. So I'm glad you're getting something from this. Phoenix, hello, my friend. Welcome back. Good to see you. Heaven Bound 777. Thank you so much for that. So glad that you feel that way. Okay, stay tuned because we're going to jump in here in just a second. Lorfit says they struggle to connect in relationships and with their children, always projecting their bad behaviors. Everyone else is part of their problem except them. Yeah, me, Papa. Yeah. Yes, it's tiring, right? And you're right. Just keep in mind throughout this whole live chat tonight that it's all about lying to themselves. That's really what this is. You have a person who has this fear of being told what to do. They don't like coercive power, meaning they don't like police, they don't like judges, they don't like rules and boundaries, they don't like the truth, they don't like honesty. These kind of individuals are draining because they're constantly trying to get around the truth, constantly trying to get around having to abide by the rules. It's like you're pulling this way and they're pulling that way. And it is very, very draining. Breakfast time. That's cute. That's cute. I love it. Between you, Starburst, Ponytail, and I can't remember the other one. These names are getting me. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you and glad to have you in a live chat. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's so good to know. Good to know. Thank you so much for that. Good to have you. The Good Glow. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, congratulations. Yes, you should be happy. I think retirement is a blessing. My mom retired years ago. She retired. Well, she stopped working to homeschool me and my siblings, my one sibling. Then she retired and was my college buddy. And now she's like past senior citizen age, and life is just wonderful for her. So I hope and pray that you have the rest that you need. You need it. I'm sure you need it. MS, hello and welcome. Good to see you back. MS says, thanks for covering this topic. You're welcome. It feels as if each topic you cover describes my situation. There's some psychology to these topics, guys. There's a reason why I post like I do. She goes on to say, or he goes on to say, I think it's a she. It appears my deceased mom and bro have forged my signature on documents. So if they go down, so do I. It's dreadful. Oh, wow. That's going to be hard to prove. And if you do have proof, that is horrendous. Horrendous. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. Yes. Thank you, MS. Says, oh, I keep forgetting to tell you I'm a female. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. All right, guys. One more comment, and then I'm going to go back to the content. You know what? I lied. Susan M., hello, welcome. Good to see you. Natalie Baker, good to see you. Natalie Baker asks, can a narcissist have schizophrenia? Yeah, absolutely. So here's what can happen. So let me break this out for you just a little bit. And here's what can happen. Narcissism and schizophrenia come from two different components. Okay. Think of us as being split down the middle. Okay. One side could be a personality disorder, which is a pervasive, chronic, long-term pattern of behavior that's hard to undo, hard to overcome, hard to even give therapy to. Okay. A personality disorder is a personality. just like being spunky, just like being a morning person is, just like having a certain tone of voice, a certain color hair, a certain length of hair, certain color eyes. It's all genetic, biological, sometimes environmental, right? Now, if we're talking about narcissism, a narcissist is made over time. Go ask Dr. Ramani. You guys see her, you guys go to her channel, and then you come to mine. I can see that in my statistics, which is really cool. But that's the narcissist. Okay, they're made over time. But look at it as a chronic form of behavior that is a different piece of the puzzle. A narcissist could then have a mental illness, which is something that can be treated very well with medication, something that can respond to therapy very well, something that can come and go, something that can happen as a result of intense stress in your world, right? So see it as two different pieces of the puzzle. Personality, mental illness. You can have both. They both occur at the same time sometimes as well. Scary, right? Ronald Zion, hello. Welcome. Glad to see you. Ronald Zion says, talk about gaslighting. Well, gaslighting is something, very briefly, I may do a video on this if we need it. Gaslighting is something that a lot of dishonest, ruleless people use as a means to keep you controlled, right? If I make you feel like you are not seeing things correctly, if I can go through a battle of the wits with you and make you firmly believe that you are the problem and I'm not, then I can continue to do dishonest, ruleless things because you're not going to suspect me. You're going to start getting inside your own head and mind and asking, am I the problem? You know, and while you're distracted with going into your own mind and asking, is it me? Is it me? What did I do? What did I say? Right? While you're in here, they're all around you creating chaos and evil, right? Jeremy Robinson, hello and welcome. Good to see you. You are my last one so we can get back into the content. Jeremy Robinson says, my stepfather has multiple DUIs, and I remember the last time he got pulled over, he blamed the police for arresting him. There you go. That's a succinct and fantastic example. Thank you for bringing that up. If you go on YouTube, okay, I'm going to give this to you. And this is not a promotion by any stretch, but this is a prime example of what we're talking about tonight. So you may find it interesting. The channel is, let me find it briefly. Okay, you should go to Law and Crime Network, okay? Law and Crime Network on YouTube. And you can go to California Body Cam channel as well. California Body Cam, not a promotion, nothing of the kind, but these are two channels that will give you live examples of how these kind of individuals behave. And I think it will cement for you what we're talking about in tonight's live chat. Okay, let's get back into the content, right, guys? Common signs. What are the common issues with these people? The number one thing, and I said it earlier, is a lack of moral self-image. They don't have a moral self-image. When you don't have a moral heart, you don't know what it means to be ethical. What happens? Well, you do whatever your heart and mind wants you to do. Steal, cheat, lie, deceive, harm, compete, be envious of or jealous of. Whatever it takes to get you what you want, you will do when you don't have a moral self-image. You know, that's why when it comes to mental health professionals or clinical psychotherapists or other mental health professionals, we are held very highly when it comes to our ethics boards. We have to be careful with what we say, with what we do, how we behave, how we teach, what we teach, right? Because we are held to a high standard in society. And anything that we do that's wrong can cost us everything, right? And it can also cost our other patients and clients everything as well. Because if ethics is not in the forefront, then you're probably going to be removed as a provider, as a professional, right? So without that moral self-image, right, how you see yourself, you can do whatever you want. And so too can professionals. If they don't have a sense of morals and ethics that guides their every thought, behavior, and move, they are likely to fall into a trap or to do something that's not okay. Narcissism, as a part of this puzzle as well. A ruleless, dishonest person can definitely be narcissist, and they could be a grandiose narcissist. They could be a covert narcissist, right? They could be a vulnerable narcissist. They look humble and sweet on the outside, but once you start talking to them, you really start to see that they are arrogant, right? They are self-centered and consumed. You will also notice with these individuals corrupt behavior and an ability to conform to corruption. It's easy, you know? Have you ever wondered why sometimes we have those quote unquote dirty cops, right? Or law enforcement officers or lawyers, judges, and attorneys who do things that are illegal, but they do it under the surface. And then they go to the other side of the world and they put on their uniform or their robe and they try to act like they're ethical people. Well, an abandonment of moral behaviors and a mindset can lead to this. It's corrupt behavior. And it's a lot easier to engage in it when you don't have a moral self-image. You may also notice what we call direct opposition. There's direct opposition. They are not going to abide by the rules of the relationship. There's not going to be respect. There's not going to be full engagement of the truth. You may get some truth and the other amount are lies, right? So we call that direct opposition. We are directly refusing to be compliant. Direct opposition. Then there's indirect resistance. Excuse me, guys. I was going to say something else. Indirect resistance. Passive aggressive behavior. Attitudes. Huffing and puffing all around you like you're getting on their nerves, you know? Hiding, lying, cheating, stealing, manipulating, triangulating. Indirect resistance. I am resisting the rules of this relationship. I am resisting the rules of myself as a human that should be respectable. I'm refusing and resisting your rules and boundaries as another human being. I'm going to do what I want to do. Guys, let me turn my heat off. Oh my goodness. I literally turn it on before I come on to the live chat. And then guess what? As I'm talking, I literally feel like I'm in a volcano. So then I have to get up and turn it off. But these are the kind of individuals who indirectly resist authority, you know? Let me also mention too, that some of the research in psychology around dishonest, ruleless individuals highlights that they tend to have a significant, what's the word that I want to use here? A significant disinterest in human beings and the rights of other people. Let me draw this out for you just a second here. I kind of want to give you something to look at here. And for those of you who have been with me for a while, you know exactly what I'm getting ready to do. Okay. And here's what it is for those of you who may not know. Okay. We have ADHD. Okay. Some people are going to be like, why would you put ADHD down? Just bear with me, okay? ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, okay? Or ADD, attention deficit disorder. Let's say, for example, your sibling, we're going to use an example of siblings. Let's say your brother has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, okay? We have ADHD is really what it is, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. If there's hyperactivity, if there's impulsivity, if there's a need to violate rules, right? If there's some kind of internal stimulation that is obtained from disregarding the rights of others, that's a problem, right? Now we're not talking about not being able to concentrate at work, not being able to concentrate at school, being impulsive and making bad decisions. Now we're talking about something that can be way more serious, a loss of self-control. So if we have a sibling, your brother, who has ADHD, and it is not treated, the medication's not working, right? Or treatment wasn't gotten in enough time, or they're resisting treatment, you can have the development of ODD. That is oppositional defiant disorder, ODD. Okay. Oppositional defiant disorder is kind of like the kindergarten version of antisocial personality disorder. Young people with ODD tend to be angry, feisty, argumentative, confrontational, bullies sometimes. They like to argue for the sake of arguing. They like to disregard the rights of others. You may ask them to kick up their right leg, they're going to throw up their left arm. You may ask them to, take this basket of fruit and vegetables to grandma's house and let me know when you get there. Well, individuals with ODD, young people with ODD, they'll take the basket. They'll have the fruit in it, but they may eat the fruit on the way and then tell you when they get there, I'm at grandma's house. That's just an example. You tell them the sky is purple, they say it's not, it's lime green. Actually, it's blue. And if you look at it a little bit closer, it's really a light blue, maybe a little bit of purple, and they'll argue with you back and forth. Okay, so that's oppositional defiant disorder. If oppositional defiant disorder doesn't get treated properly, guess what's coming next, guys? Conduct disorder. And I'm going to show you how this goes in a minute. That's why I'm writing it down. Conduct disorder is a disorder of juvenile delinquency. And those are the young people I used to work with, where they are handcuffed and they've got charges and, they've got ankle bracelets on, they're on probation. They're living in a residential treatment facility for doing heinous, harmful crimes. Some of the kids that I used to see were murderers. Some of the kids I used to see were child abusers. They were sexually violent offenders. The list just goes on with these kids. So conduct disorder is really a type of juvenile delinquency. Okay. If that doesn't get treated properly, now we're going up another notch. And now we're looking at antisocial personality disorder or a sociopath. And so here's how this looks. And this is to my point of there's a lot of oppositional behavior with these kind of individuals. And so here's what this looks like. Whoa. See that, guys? Right? ADHD. And ADHD, if not treated properly, can lead to oppositional defiant disorder. If oppositional defiant disorder isn't treated, conduct disorder, CD, right? And then, of course, you can't see this one because it's so tiny. If conduct disorder isn't dealt with properly, then antisocial personality disorder is likely the end result of that chain of events. And so when you have individuals who may have gone through those chain of events and diagnoses, you're dealing with a completely ruleless, most likely dishonest individual. And the older these individuals get, can you imagine this, right? The older they get, sometimes the worse they get. So if you have an adolescent who has poorly treated ADHD, poorly treated oppositional defiant disorder, poorly treated conduct disorder, and we at the age of 18 can now be diagnosed as a sociopath, antisocial personality disorder. When they hit 30 years old, they may have already become a career criminal. Right? They may already have some things in their history that highlights that they are ruleless and dishonest and deceptive and manipulative and triangulating, and the list goes on. So that's one way to kind of conceptualize these kind of individuals. And especially if you know someone that has ADHD that's untreated or poorly treated, and they seem to get a kick out of being directly oppositional or indirectly resistant. I've seen people like that, and they're just such a huge turnoff. Now, let me also just say that there's what we call compensatory behaviors. And this is what deceives most of us. Compensatory behaviors, it's really compensation. And there's two kinds. Well, there's many, but there's two kinds that's relevant to us. Let's say, for example, your brother has that chain of events I just taught you: ADHD, ODD, CD, and antisocial personality. He's a sociopath. He's cold, callous, corrupt. He doesn't care who he hurts. He minimizes other people's rights, right? He's dishonest. That's who he is. He's comfortable being lawless and ruleless, okay? So let's say that's your brother. You may find, sorry guys, I thought I heard my cell phone. You may find over time that compensation is the only way that your brother has made it in society. So there can be what we call Social compensation, where you compensate socially. You adjust your behaviors to fit in. You adjust how you see the world, how you think about other people in order to survive. And that's why a lot of us are sorely deceived. Why? Because a lot of us fall prey to the ruleless person's compensatory behavior, right? And sometimes that's social compensation or social, I don't even know how to, we'll say social compensation. I'll put it that way, where that individual is saying, I'm going to compensate for a lack of skills, for a lack of morals and ethics by appearing the part. That makes sense, guys? And the second one is behavior or behavioral compensation, that I'm going to act differently in order to get ahead, in order to get the job I want, in order to marry the woman I want, in order to date the guy that I want, in order to get that bought home that I want. I've got to twist and skew my behaviors. I am engaging in behavioral compensation so that I can get what I want. But at the core of who I am, and it may not show up until months down the road, years down the road, or centuries down the road, that I am a ruleless, dishonest person. And so it's easy for these individuals to compensate. You know, it's very easy. They know how to get what they want. Some of them are sociopaths. Some of them are narcissistic, and they know what to do to get you to believe them. Let me briefly go over just a few things, guys. I'm going to go back to the chat box, and then I'm going to tell you how this impacts you, and we're going to wrap up, hopefully before 8 o'clock. We'll see. Research in psychology suggests that there are reasons why you and me and you do not engage in dishonest, ruleless behavior. The first thing was fear of consequences. We have an internal system that says that I want to receive a reward, and a reward could be anything. Not getting a ticket is a reward from a police officer. You know, not being pulled over when I'm trying to get to Target, that's a reward, right? Not getting into a fist fight and having to serve jail time and be on probation, that's a reward. So we fear naturally consequences. That's just who we are. We also tend to have a higher level of self-respect. For some people, it's self-righteousness, and they feel like they're so up here that they're not going to do anything wrong because it's too low for them. You know, those are the narcissists, the grandiose narcissists. But for those of us who are normal, whatever that means, quote unquote normal, self-respect tends to keep us in line, right? We know not to run out of our house, stand in the middle of our neighborhood and scream bloody murder into the air at 12 a.m. in the morning. We know not to do that, right? And research in psychology suggests that's because we have a fear of consequences. We have self-respect. We also are goal-directed. We know what we want and need. If I run out of my house and get to the middle of the road at 12 a.m. in the morning and I'm screaming, how am I going to get up and go to work tomorrow? How are my neighbors going to see me? How am I going to make the money I need? Right? So we're goal-directed. We also desire to avoid change. I'm not going to jail for that. I'm not getting a ticket for that. I'm not going to harass that person over there, right? And we also fear losing what we have already achieved. We fear losing what we have already achieved. Ruleless, dishonest people do not. It's not inborn. It's not built, you know? And I keep driving that point home so you'll understand it's not always just behavior. It is not just behavior. Sometimes it is literally genetic, it's temperamental, it's environmental, and some people are just born this way. They don't fear losing what they have already achieved. They also don't fear the law, right? For those of us who do have fear, you know, we tend to be very focused on where do I need to be at this time and that time? Who needs me right now? If I get pulled over by the police, then my mom, who is post-stroke, for an example from my personal world, is not going to see me tonight. And she's going to need dinner from me. She's going to need comfort from me. But if I get pulled over by the police, I can't be there for her. So we're able to go through that mental process. People who are dishonest and ruleless are not able to do that. They're not. The reason they don't obey is usually hate, bias, and racism. social power. They want to look cool and in control. Vigilantism, we call that the Bruce Wayne syndrome. The Bruce Wayne syndrome, it's vigilantism. A victim mindset. They tend to carry a victim mindset. So everybody's doing something to them, including you, and self-interest and lack of respect. This is why they don't obey. The other piece of the puzzle is neurology. Their brain doesn't follow the same course as ours does, right? We have a fight or flight system that responds. Not for these people. Their fight or flight system is not as on. The only time their fight or flight system might kick on, and this is according to research, I did post it already in the description box for you, but the reason they may kind of feel some fight or flight is if they are being chased by the police. Have you ever watched a police chase? How they sometimes drive for hours just leading the police. Then they pull over when they run out of gas or something happens. Their tire gets flattened and they jump out of the car and they run and they're looking for homes and friends and people to go into their homes and hide, right? Those police chases are prime examples of self-interest. I don't care who I reckon to, kill, harm, put in harm's way, the list goes on. I want what I want. And that is self-interest as well, and a victim mindset. So this is somewhat of the reasons for why, because there's many more, but this is the majority of them, I should put it that way, why these individuals may not obey. And don't forget, fight or flight, it doesn't really kick in unless they have to run from the police or somehow protect the money that they have stolen, whatever. And even when they are caught, sometimes their fight or flight doesn't kick in. What kicks in is argumentativeness, confrontation, right? Disregard for the rights of others. They are very self-centered, egotistical people. We can say narcissistic as well. All right, guys, let me go to the chat box, take a little bit of a water break, give you a little bit of insight on how this impacts you, and then we're going to wrap up. Okay. Okay, let's go to you. Kathleen Sims, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for that. Good to see you on the channel as well. Welcome. Adila, hello. Good to see you. Okay. Bear with me, guys. This is a lot to get through tonight. And Odell, hello. I don't know if I welcomed you. I feel like I did, but I'm not sure. She says casserole sounds good. Thank you. My mom's like, the other day when I cooked dinner, my mom's like, who taught you how to cook? And I'm like, my own brain. I don't know. She's like, you are the best cook ever. Hold on, guys. Give me 1 second. Excuse me. She's like, you are the best cook ever. How do you get this like this? And I'm like, I don't know, Mom. So for the past month or two since she's come out of the hospital, she's like, here's another dinner that's good. So yes, and Odell, it is good. We need like smell-o-vision or smell YouTube so I can share some of my good dinners with you guys. Serafina says, this has been really good. So good to hear and glad to hear it. That's awesome. Star, hello and welcome. Thank you so much. Good to hear that. Always glad to see you. Heaven Bound 777 says, it's very exhausting and emotionally draining. Yes, it is. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If I have somebody who is a quote unquote liar, manipulator, ruleless individual who doesn't care about the rights of others, if they are in my presence, I do feel drained, extraordinarily drained. And it's a major thing for me to bounce back. I just barely can do it because I'm so tired. You know what I mean? So I totally get you. I think for those of us who consider ourselves highly sensitive, or maybe we're highly empathic, however you describe yourself in that, that category, these kind of individuals just suck the life out of you like a vampire, Okay, bear with me, guys. Looking for more comments. Well, the good glow, you sound like me. The older I get, the good glow says, I find myself enjoying my own company because I am less tolerable of the dark energy of family and friends. I very much agree with that. Very much agree with that. Once you hit a certain age, you can kind of say, you can kind of look at the people that are in your realm and you can kind of say, you know what, I think I'm going to push you back there. You know what, let me move you over here to once a month. Let me take and move you up here to maybe 2 times a day. I'm going to talk to you. Um, you know what, I'm not going to talk to you ever again. No, I don't, so somewhere the good glow, you've gotten to a place, I'm sure, where you're like, I don't want to deal with this, and I'm not. And that's okay. Ellie Wen says, yes, the whole planet is going through mass social and environmental pain, adding to individual personal suffering. Yeah, agree. Phoenix, that's awesome. Says, I'm so glad you're talking about this topic. I'm trying to take notes for when I reach out. That's awesome. Good to hear. Andrew Mercer, hello. Yes, it is an unhealthy fantasy. Good to see you. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Yeah, breakfast time calls it cognitive arrest. Ooh, I like that. That is my new word. Natalie Baker says, because of my mother, my left hemisphere has become dominant. You did not just say that. Okay. Yeah, because you got to reason and rationalize and calculate, and right? Can you imagine what therapists go through? Orlando says, I'm truth seeker. I think you meant I'm a truth seeker. I don't care about how bad something is. I want to know about it. Yeah, me too. Me too. Thank you, Phoenix. I really appreciate that compassion and empathy. Thank you so much. Yes. If any of you have cared for a loved one, because I'm just going to be honest with you, I'm picky. And because I love those people who are closest to me, trust me, care about me, I care about them, I'm just kind of like, you know what? I don't want you with that rehabilitation therapist. I don't like that physical therapist. I don't like that home nurse. It's like you really have to be someone that really gets this for me to be like, okay, I can leave you with my mother for the next 6 hours. You know what I mean? So when you care for someone and you're caretaking, it's tiring, right, Phoenix? But you do it because you love them, right? Fairy Girl says truth can be subjective as well. Yes, it can. We're not going to get into that argument, Fairy Girl. You're not going to do this to us tonight when we're all exhausted. But I agree with you. It can be subjective. Gio Castillo, hello and welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for that. It's good to see you back. My friend Shmita, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Cognitive dissonance can be weaponized. That is a good point. Good point. Bear with me, guys, as I go through this. Yeah, thank you so much. My friend Shmita says, I wish I could watch the rest of this, but I do have to go. Just thank you for tuning in. Always glad to see you. Mom Tooth, glad to see you as well. Welcome. Fairy Girl, love the dabs. Thank you for that. Is it Yvonne? Yvonne. All right. Thank you for that. Yvonne, hello. Good to see you. Welcome. Gary Bennett says a narcissist's ego grows on untruths and people believing and encouraging them. Yeah, well, that is true. That is true. That is why sometimes they pull in the weakest people into their worlds. Why? Because then they can kind of fill that person's head up with fantasies and lies of who they are, when the reality is they're not what they appear to be, right? And so what comes from that, guys? What comes from that experience of, I thought I understood you, and now all of a sudden I've been smacked in the face with a different you? Betrayal trauma. That's what it is. It's betrayal trauma. Or betrayal blindness. Betrayal blindness. That's also a term we can talk about at a later time. Doran Beckford, hello and welcome. Good to have you in the live chat. Welcome. Doran Beckford says, first live, thanks for your work. You're welcome. My parents are narcissists and I know I suffer traits. Can't lie to self. Well, you might and you might not, because sometimes what we think are narcissist traits is sometimes trauma-based traits behaviors, mindsets, the list goes on. So that is why it's not always, good to self-diagnose, because I wish I had it down here with me. I don't. No, I don't have it. Well, no, I don't have it with me. My DSM, it's like this thick, okay? The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. If I just open that big book, okay, and flip the pages, land on a chapter, I could look at the chapter and say, you know what? I meet all of this criteria except for one. Or I meet this criteria, that criteria, and that criteria, And so that's why self-diagnosis isn't good, because you may actually have some trauma. You may actually have some traits of arrogance and not narcissism, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Nancy R says, I'm self-employed. I have had clients like this. They are exhausting, but also hard to trust. Yes, they are. You know the struggle. I like the Good Glow name too. Yeah, I have to say. And there's another one on here. I'm like, why do I? Here she is, Honey Butterscotch. Good to see you. Welcome. I think I remember seeing you on here before. I love those names. I don't know what it is, right, Phoenix? Let me go to Franciphile Poutine. Bonjour to you as well. My bro's coming to see me after 7 months of no contact. I'm worried my mom sent him as a flying monkey. I think I need to have my awareness up this weekend. Well, you never know. You never know. You never know. Hold out some hope. Gio Castillo says, your channel and video titles have helped me a lot. I honestly don't usually watch the full video. I have a lot on my plate. Yeah, I totally get you. I did it. And thank you for that, by the way. I do that too. I like watch 5 minutes. I get the gist of whoever I'm watching on TV. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want this anymore. Let's go to the next video. Janine MacArthur, always good to see you on here. Welcome, welcome. She says, my mom admitted she was toxic. She was describing her angry attitude, narcissistic. Thanks for another interesting video. You're the best. Thank you so much. And I'm sure you are the best as well. That's so sweet of you. It's really difficult to deal with a person who says, you know what, I'm toxic. I've had that in sessions before. I've had clients come in for the first time, and I'm like really hopeful that we're going to get somewhere, and I'm like, this is a great situation. She's reached out for help. We're getting somewhere. I feel we're clicking. This is good. And at the end of the session, they may joke around and say, you know what? I'm the most toxic person you're ever going to meet. I'm so toxic. One client that I didn't end up taking on back in 2017, the first thing she said to me when I said, hi, good to meet you. And I'm Tamara. Let's go back. Let's get started with the session. I start explaining confidentiality, doing all the housekeeping stuff that we have to do as therapists. And then I said to her, I really think it's great just looking at your paperwork that you have decided to come to therapy. That's a brave step. Tell me why therapy for you at this time. And she's like, I'm a volcano. I am so toxic. I destroy people's lives. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, this doesn't feel good, So, it's hard, Janine MacArthur, to kind of swallow when somebody says I'm toxic, I'm destructive, or like this former person who came to see me, I destroy people's lives. It's like, are you bragging or complaining? I'm not really sure where we're going with this. Either way, it's not a good thing to say, it kind of puts you on alert. So yeah. Dragon Man Sasson, hello. Happy Friday to you. Welcome. Good to see you as always. Bear with me, guys. Spiky Potato says, what do you think about the theory of Dr. Peter Salerno on narcissists? Just saw it a couple of days ago. Ooh, I've heard about him. I have. I don't know what I think about it yet. I don't know. I have to look at it. I don't know what I think about that yet. We'll come back to that at a later time, Spiky Potato. We'll come back to that. Bear with me. Let's do one more comment, then I'm going to get into the rest of this. Gio Castillo, so good to see. I'm with you on that. Falcon, the black belt, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Says religious narcs too, using God and higher than thou attitude to facilitate themselves sometimes. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. Sometimes we have, and not all, but some are in the church to help further their own fantasy of who they are, right? Remember that child I told you about, that young person I told you about, had 17 different doors in her mind? Well, sometimes people have 17 different masks that they wear. And sometimes you get the church mask, and it's so hard to like break through that veneer, right? You just want to shake them and say, just be real. Is it that hard? Rail Jackson, hello. Welcome. Good to see you. Welcome to the chat tonight. Good to see you. Okay. Yeah. Dawn One says, love is not supposed to hurt. I agree. We're not tonight, YouTube. Hold on, guys. Here it is. Love is not supposed to hurt. That is correct. I agree. Danita J. Minor, hello and welcome. Glad to see you. Says narcissists are proud of their behavior. Sometimes, and sometimes the only way that they can maintain their arrogant, self-righteous disposition is to make everybody else look like they're stupid. And they will intentionally create scenarios that makes you look like you don't know what you're doing, what you're saying, who you are. Have you ever been in the presence of a narcissist who has a really strong but erroneous self-concept? Have you ever been in front of somebody like that? I have, professionally, personally. And you get this internalized icky sense of, ew, right? It's kind of like, do you have to do all that? Is this necessary? Just be you. And I'll take that and I'll see how my spirit, my mind, my heart kind of arrives at a conclusion about who you are to me. You know, I will allow that to happen, but do you have to sell yourself to me in this way? Because this doesn't look or feel good. I've been in the presence of people professionally where they are highly self-righteous, very arrogant, and you just feel like they're suffocating you, you know? Sometimes those are ruleless, dishonest people as well. And they are doing what, guys? Compensating. Okay. Okay. Bear with me, guys. Okay, you're going to be my last one before I go to the rest of the content. Trying to figure it out, Bree. Hello and welcome. Glad you're here, and welcome to the live chat tonight. Okay, just so that we stay on point here, because I really do need to wrap up pretty soon. Let's talk about how this impacts you. The number one way, and this is what research and psychology also suggest, is you are going to be impacted with relational confusion. If you are in the life of somebody, or you have a family member like this, or coworker, or whatever, if you are in the life of someone like this, relational confusion is likely. Why? Because they're constantly playing with your mind, your heart, your perception of them, your perception of reality. One thing I said a couple days ago was this: sometimes dishonest, hurtful, deceptive, lying people, they can't change your perception of reality, right? Because maybe you're so grounded in reality that they can't change it. But what they can change is your perception of them. And so they'll constantly switch in and out of people and attitudes and behaviors and personality and masks, and because they want to change your perception of them. You know, and so a lot of relational confusion can happen when you are connected to people like this, right? You may also notice what we call conflicting affective states or motivations, right? Conflicting emotional states or affective states or motivations. You know, it's hard to figure out what to feel. It's hard to figure out what you're feeling. It's hard to figure out what's triggering what you feel when you're in the life of people who are dishonest and ruleless, you know, especially if you're going through a cognitive dissonance. You may also notice a kind of neurosis of cognitive dissonance. right? You realize that you can't marry these two things and it's driving you insane. You don't know how to bridge that gap. None of this behavior makes sense to me. Why is she treating me that way and we've always been good sisters? Why is he talking to me that way and all this week we had a really good time? Right? So you may experience the anxiety and the neurosis of cognitive dissonance. And the neurosis of cognitive dissonance is I'm going around and around and around in circles and I'm racking my brain and I can't figure it out. Now I'm having a panic attack. Now I'm anxious. Now I'm overheated. I'm escalating my emotions. My fight or flight system is off, right? And so that's the neurosis of cognitive dissonance. I can't figure this out. So now I am completely out of control because I can't marry the two things, you know? You can become a people pleaser and you can also have low feelings of self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the idea of how good you are at something, how talented you are with something, how insightful you are, how, intelligent the word left my mind. I'm going to say well-educated. We'll use that in its place. How well-educated you are. If you have low feelings of self-efficacy, then you have low self-esteem and you really may not see all of your good attributes when you are with the person who's a ruleless, dishonest individual. You know, your mother's a narcissist. She lies to you. She said your dad was somebody that he's not. She said these were your siblings and they're half siblings. You just realized that grandma is somebody else's grandma, not yours. She's lied to you all of your life. And so what happens? Well, now you start to look at how good am I? How smart am I? Where do I belong? Where are my roots? How am I supposed to look at me? Right? And so over time, you can experience low feelings of self-efficacy. Have you guys ever heard of counter dependency? Have you ever heard of that? Counter dependency. This is our last point before we wrap up. Counter dependency. It's basically, it's the fear of emotional dependency. The fear of emotional dependency. I'm going to run way over here away from you because I don't want to become emotionally dependent or attached. The very sign of me becoming detached scares me. Counter dependency. So you may find yourself after dealing with somebody who's dishonest, somebody who's ruleless, somebody who has very minimal ethics and boundaries, you may find yourself suffering from counter dependency. I'm afraid to get close, so I will stay way over here. I'll throw a little crumbs out there if there's somebody that I may be interested in talking to, getting to know, working with, dating, marrying, whatever. We'll see how they react, and then I'll go from there. I'm really afraid, though, and I'm suffering from counter dependency. This is a lot to take in, right, guys? These topics are pretty comprehensive. There's more. I literally only touched the surface for you guys because it's a lot. But tell me what you think of this. Do you think that you have somebody like this in your life? Do they fit all the different labels and titles that I've thrown out there tonight? Most likely. So come join me tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be a live chat involving spiritual things, dark psychology, and existentialism, okay? Because tomorrow I want to highlight for you guys some of the relational pieces that you may not have ever been able to explore, research, understand, and really make sense out of. So come and join me tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit of a dark psychology, spiritual, existential conversation about people in your life and the impact that they have had on your mind, your heart, and your soul. So come join me tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to pick out just a few things in the chat box here, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up, guys. Okay. Gio Castillo, I love your comments tonight. I agree with that. At some point, you're going to come to the conclusion that you need something bigger, more in control than just your mind, right? Lore Fit says they're extremely disrespectful. They can be. Yeah, absolutely. Emin Odell, that's hilarious. She says, I don't look good in an orange jumpsuit, right? You know, some people, especially the dishonest, ruleless people, they don't have a problem with that. They don't. Ronald Zion says they consider themselves over others. That's a dark pathology. Yes, it is. Yep. Remember, we recently, Ronald Zion talked about entitlement. We can also take that conversation and bring it into tonight. P Games, hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. I don't remember you. P Games says, mother specifically needed proof, but what could I do as 7 other than tell every possible detail? My father was more neutral and diplomatic over it. At least father respects that I won't be with bro. That sounds more like I got to get this out of my mind because it's burdening me. I don't know what to say to that in response. I can kind of figure it out, but you know, if I read through the lines, sounds like a very complicated dynamic. Okay. Orlando says, Tamara, what mental disorder or mental illness is worse to deal with? Well, I'm going to say, and this is just my personal and professional opinion, I really think the worst, the most difficult and complicated psychiatric mental illness or mental illness psychiatric disorder that there is, because all of them are very difficult to manage, is the dissociative disorders, because we're dealing with a separation between mind and spirit, between mind and reality, between the heart and the mind. And dissociation isn't just I'm paying attention and now I'm daydreaming and I'm back to reality. We're not talking about that kind of dissociation. We're also not talking about the kind of depersonalization where you feel like you're living in a dream and everything is passing by you in a slow way, that it feels like you're walking in a dream. We're not talking about that. We're also not talking about derealization, where things just feel off to you. They feel false and fake and just not very tangible. You know, some people feel like they are walking in a world that's an Alice in Wonderland. The dissociative disorders, like dissociative amnesia, that's a hard one. I'm not going to get into what they are right now. Dissociative identity disorder, right? That's a hard one, because some people can mimic dissociative identity disorder very well. Some people can also be going through a psychotic break, but still also have dissociative identity disorder. So I think the dissociative disorders are the most difficult to deal with. You know, anytime they come up in my private practice, I have to refer, because those kind of clients need constant support, supervision, treatment, you know. Miguel Chips Intelligent, I hope I said that correctly. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. And thank you so much for that. That's so kind and so sweet. Yes. Thank you for that. That's so kind and so humbling. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I'm looking at somebody else's comment. Nancy R. Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. Sometimes, and I may have said this before to you guys, that sometimes, and this is to you as well, Nancy, sometimes you guys just need to know that it's okay to feel what you feel, even if other people think you're wrong to feel it, even if other people would disagree with you. It's okay to feel what you feel, and it's okay to feel validated, because that may be the number one thing that leads to your healing. That's what I tell my clients sometimes. Sometimes you just need to know you are not unstable, you are not emotionally detrimental, you are going through something. And sometimes, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, sometimes what you're going through is a very normal human thing that has been pulled into the psychology world, dissected, and kind of overly analyzed, when the reality is it's a condition of humanity, right? So we're going to talk about some of that tomorrow. Yes. Thank you, fairy girl. I'm going to put you up here. Guys, let's pause here, okay? I'm going to exercise some boundaries and say, let's pause here tonight. Thank you so much for being with me in this live chat tonight. I truly hope that it was helpful. I will see you guys in the next live chat. Come join me tomorrow if you're interested in existentialism, spiritual things, concepts, And what's the other thing? Dark psychology. Okay. We're going to talk about relationships of all kind, and you're probably going to want to hear that conversation, how they impact you, and what are the existential spiritual ways that they impact you, and what are some of the terms to explain that. So I hope to see you guys then. Have a wonderful and safe Friday night. Bye-bye.